Hi, and welcome to today's video. Today we're going to talk about polynomials in standard form. Before we get too far into that, though, we probably need to talk about some vocabulary. So we're going to have quite a few vocabulary terms to talk about here. So first, let's talk about what a polynomial is. A polynomial is just an expression made up with constants, variables, and non-negative integer exponents on the variables. Okay, so a polynomial cannot have fractions in the exponents. It can't have irrational numbers in the exponents. It has to be a non-negative integer in the exponent. The variable can also not be in the denominator of a fraction for it to be a polynomial. Um, so lots of things to keep in mind there. If it looks like something like this, where it has just a variable with an exponent, and that exponent is a positive integer, it's probably a polynomial. Okay, the degree of a polynomial, all you have to do is look at the highest power or sum of the powers in any term of the polynomial expression or equation. So in other words, look for the one that has the highest power, which in this case is this one for this example. Since this is a 3, we would call this a third degree polynomial. This also has another name that we'll talk about. It's a cubic. So we'll talk about that here in a minute. Standard form of a polynomial is just a way of writing polynomials. And the way that you put them in standard form is we have to look at the highest degree in the expression, and that always goes first. And then we look for the next highest degree term, and that goes next. And then the next highest degree term goes after that, and so on. So, for example, 3x to the fifth plus 4x cubed plus or minus 5. This one is in standard form because the degrees go 5 and then 3 and then 0 on down. In this one, the exponents go 2 and then 4 and then 1. So this one's not in standard form because the powers are not in the correct order. Okay, moving on here. The leading term is just the very first term in a polynomial expression written in standard form. So for example, here 3x cubed minus 4x plus 5. The 3x cubed is the leading term because that is the one, this is written in standard form, it's the one in front, so it's the leading term. The coefficients, well, those are just the numbers in front of each of the variables in a polynomial expression. So, and those are the numbers in front of the variables. So here, 3x cubed minus 4x plus 5. Remember, they have to be the numbers in front of the variables. So this is not a coefficient. This is just a constant. The coefficients here are 3 and negative 4 because those are the numbers in front of each of the variables. Okay, the leading coefficient, of course, just think of leading term, leading coefficient. That's just the coefficient of the leading term. So in 3x cubed minus 4x plus 5, 3 is the leading coefficient because it goes with the first term. Okay, a constant is the term in a polynomial expression that doesn't have a variable associated with it. So again, if we go back to our example here, the plus 5 is the constant because it does not have a variable term with it. Okay, so a couple of examples here of how we might use this now. For each expression, decide if it is a polynomial and explain your answer. So again, some of those rules that we talked about, how to decide if it's a polynomial or not. So x cubed minus 4x plus 5. We already mentioned that one is. And yes, because all of the variables are non-negative integer exponents. Here, a to the pi minus 3a plus 4. Well, that's not a polynomial because this is an irrational number. It's not a non-negative integer. So no, pi is not a non-negative integer. Here, 4 to the x minus 1 power. Well, we can't have the exponent, or the variable in the exponent. So no, the exponent cannot be a variable. And here we have the variable in the denominator of a fraction. This one is not a polynomial function because the variable cannot be in the denominator of a function. Okay, polynomial. So here is a chart. You might want to have this chart in your notes. So in this chart, we just talk about the different degrees of polynomials and with the number of terms and how we might name them based on degree and number of terms. So for example, here 5, the degree is 0 because we could write x to the 0 here because x to the 0 is 1. So the degree of this is 0. So it is a constant term. It has only one term in the expression, or in the polynomial expression. So it's called a monomial because only one. Think of mono being one. So in this particular case, this is a constant monomial. That's how we would classify it. Okay, here linear. We've done linear equations before, 3x plus 4. So the power is 1. We don't write the 1 in there on the power, but it is a power of 1. So it's a first degree polynomial. We call that a linear. There are two terms, one term here, one term here, so two terms. So think of bicycle or something like that that has biplane. Um, the bi means two, so binomial means two terms. So it's a linear binomial. Here, 4x squared, the degree is 2. So we've also worked with quadratic functions before. There is only one term, so again, that's a monomial. And so here you can see as we go down, 3 would be cubic, 4 would be quartic, 5 is a quintic. And the number of terms, if there are 3 terms, it's a trinomial. Please don't get this. Don't think that this is a trinomial because of this. It's a trinomial because there are 3 terms. And some students get confused with that. So the power here has to do with what we would call it here. The number of terms has to do with what we would call it here. Okay, so since this one has 5 terms, we would just use polynomial of 5 terms. So one thing to note, anything more than 4 terms, we would call it a polynomial of however many terms. So if there were 10 terms, we would call it a polynomial of 10 terms. Okay, one last set of examples, and then we're done for this particular topic. So example 2, write each polynomial in standard form, then name each polynomial by degree and number of terms. So here we have a polynomial. We need to rewrite it in standard form. So take the x. Please remember the sign in front goes with. So this is a negative x to the 4th. Negative 8x cubed, so x to the 4th minus 8x cubed. There's an implied positive here that we don't really write in, so plus 5x squared plus 4. So this is a, sorry, I put quintic, this should be quartic. I wrote the wrong thing there. Quartic polynomial of 4 terms. Here we have, this is a quadratic because we take this term out front, 2x squared plus x minus 3, so it's a quadratic trinomial. Here, as in the, just like in the other chart, just a constant, so it's a constant monomial. And here, this one's a little different. We have to do a little work first. Distribute the x squared, so we have x squared times x is x cubed. X squared times negative 3 is minus 3x squared. And so that is a cubic because it's third power, and there are 2 terms, so it's a binomial, cubic binomial. So that's really all there is to this particular subject. So that's all I have. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you again soon.